His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa met with the Boston Celtics basketball player Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics team at Gdaybiya Palace. His Royal Highness highlighted Bahrain's commitment to advancing the sports sector as one of the priority sectors contributing to the kingdom's comprehensive development, led by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. His Royal Highness emphasized the important role of sports in building bridges of communication between countries and peoples. His Royal Highness noted the importance of international efforts to enhance sports, highlighting the kingdom's commitment to developing basketball, which continues to garner international interest and popularity. His Royal Highness commended the kingdom's wide-ranging initiatives and programs to develop the sports sector, noting the support provided to the sector by the representative of His Majesty the King for Humanitarian Work and Youth Affairs, Chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and the Chairman of the General Sports Authority and President of Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa. In this regard, His Royal Highness extended wishes for success in achieving the kingdom's comprehensive development goals. His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa also attended the meeting. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa met with the Executive Chairman of InvestCorp, Mohammed bin Mahfouz Al Aradi, at Gdaybiya Palace. His Royal Highness highlighted the importance of diversifying Bahrain's economy and supporting its priority sectors in line with the kingdom's comprehensive development, led by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. His Royal Highness noted the importance of implementing initiatives that fosters a competitive, fair and sustainable investment environment on par with the Bahrain Economic Vision 2030. He affirmed the role of the banking and financial institutions in enhancing the contributions of various priority sectors and creating quality opportunities for Bahraini citizens. His Royal Highness noted the importance of enhancing the financial services sector and increasing its efficiency as one of the kingdom's priority sectors, implementing strategies to further its competitiveness and innovation, and employing modern technologies to achieve the kingdom's wide-ranging goals and aspirations. For his part, Al-Ardi expressed gratitude for the opportunity to meet with His Royal Highness, noting His Royal Highness's commitment to developing the banking and financial sector and enhancing Bahrain's investment environment. The Minister of Finance and National Economy, Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, also attended the meeting. The Crown Prince and Prime Minister His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa today issued a circular regarding public holiday commemorating Prophet Muhammad's date of birth, peace be upon him. Under the circular, the kingdom's ministries, state departments and public institutions will be closed on Wednesday, 27th of September 2023. The representative of His Majesty the King for Humanitarian Work and Youth Affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, expressed thanks and appreciation to His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the honorary president of the Royal Humanitarian Foundation, for His Majesty's praise during the Supreme Defense Council meeting towards the contributions of the RHF, recent of which the provision of humanitarian relief aid to Libya. His Highness added that this praise reflects the humanitarian work of the RHF and their noble efforts in providing urgent relief aid to the affected. He said that the relief aid provided to Libya is an honor, and Bahrain will always have a firm stance towards brotherly and friendly countries. His Highness Sheikh Nasser stated His Majesty the King is a role model in extending a help hand to those in need and the afflicted in various circumstances, which was evident through His Majesty's humanitarian stances and initiatives within the kingdom's endeavors to consolidate international solidarity based on fraternal and humanitarian ties that bring together the various peoples of the world. His Highness stated that this appreciation and high praise for His Majesty the King increases the responsibility to always live up to His Majesty's expectations. He pledged to His Majesty to exert further efforts and continue to work diligently to serve the kingdom under His Majesty's leadership. His Highness Sheikh Nasser stressed that the RHF could not have made its achievements and tasks assigned to it without the prior support of His Majesty the King, as well as that of the government headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. His Highness stressed that the RHF is honored to implement the directives of His Majesty the King. The representative of His Majesty the King for Humanitarian Work and Youth Affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, received Bahraini runner Fatima Hussein, the first athlete from Bahrain and the GCC to participate in the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc. His Highness Sheikh Nasser congratulated Fatima, who is also a senior process engineer at Babco, on completing the world-famous trail runner event. His Highness praised the efforts of the youth in the sports sector, noting that Bahrain takes pride in its sports talents, who continue to leave their mark in international sports events. His Highness noted that the difficulties and challenges faced in this race make its completion by a young Bahraini woman a significant addition to Bahrain's track record of international championships, underlining his constant support for the country's sporting talents. During the meeting, Fatima spoke about the challenges she endured during the race, adding that raising the Bahraini flag at the finish line for the first time in the history of this race was worth all the hard work over the past few years. The first Deputy Chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, SCYS, Chairman of the General Sports Authority and President of the Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, congratulated His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and His Majesty the King's representative for Humanitarian Work and Youth Affairs, Chairman of the SCYS, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, on the occasion of national wrestling team player Ahmed Tajuddin winning first place on the gold medal in the 97 kilogram weight category in the World Wrestling Championship held in the Serbian capital, Belgrade. His Highness affirmed that this victory is a result of the support of His Majesty the King, His Royal Highness and His Highness Sheikh Nasser, as well as providing all facilities to national clubs, which resulted in the kingdom's reaching a high status on the global sports map. His Highness noted that Ahmed Tajuddin's victory has qualified him to the Paris Olympic Games, affirming the success of the SCYS plan in improving the conditions of the teams to continue making international achievements for the kingdom. His Highness congratulated Ahmed Tajuddin on his victory. The executive and legislative branches held a joint meeting to review the outcomes of the semi-annual closure of ministries and government agencies for the period ending on 30th June 2023. The two sides expressed pride in the wide-ranging achievements of their joint cooperation, which contributes to achieving the goals of the comprehensive development process. The executive branch's representatives affirmed the government's commitment to achieving the goals of the fiscal balance program. They pointed out that the result of the semi-annual closure proves the commitment of ministries and government agencies to the funds allocated to them in the State Budget 2023 to 2024. The Representatives Council Speaker Ahmed Lemselem affirmed that the meeting aims to strengthen the ongoing constructive legislator-executive cooperation to serve the nation and the citizens, based on the directives of His Majesty the King and the support of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. The Shura Council Chairman Ali bin Saleh Al Saleh praised the announced outcomes, noting that they reflect the keenness of ministries and government agencies to implement government programs and projects according to the preset executive plans. The Minister of Finance and National Economy, Sheikh Salman, asserted that the kingdom is making steadfast strides towards achieving its development goals, thanks to the determination of its citizens and cooperation between the executive and legislative branches. The Representatives Council Speaker Ahmed Lemselem made a statement on the occasion of the International Day of Peace, in which he affirmed that the vision of His Majesty the King made Bahrain a land for global peace and coexistence based on its national principles, its civilizational initiatives, and international contributions in supporting peace and stability to achieve development and prosperity. He praised the efforts of the government headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister in establishing dialogue and coexistence between religions, cultures and civilizations, and enhancing Bahrain's role in this field through a balanced foreign policy, diplomatic efforts and humanitarian projects and initiatives in upholding the values and principles of international peace and security as a foundation for sustainable development. Lemselem said that Bahrain is constantly working towards achieving peace in a society of justice and equality, combating all forms of racism, discrimination and hate speech, and respecting human rights. Shura Council Chairman Ali Saleh affirmed that Bahrain adopted the foundations and principles of peace, coexistence and harmony among all as a constant approach and a solid foundation in implementing national strategies and plans. On the occasion of the International Day of Peace, Saleh expressed pride in the visions of His Majesty the King, which made Bahrain a regional and global model for peaceful coexistence among different peoples and religions in the world. The chairman also expressed pride in the government's efforts led by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister to consolidate peace framework and principles in national action. He noted that the bright images of peace and the humanitarian contributions provided by Bahrain reflect its status as a land of peace. Bahrain participates with the countries of the world in celebrating the International Day of Peace, which was approved by the United Nations General Assembly. And this year it came under the slogan, "Working for Peace, our ambition to achieve global goals." More in this report.
On the 21st of September of every year, the Kingdom of Bahrain and the countries of the world celebrate the International Day of Peace within the framework of its adherence to its national principles and its pride in the pioneering initiatives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa in spreading the culture of peace and laying the foundations of dialogue and coexistence between religions, cultures and civilizations. The ongoing government plans and efforts headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa also strive to achieve the goals of sustainable development through Bahrain Vision 2030, which aims to lay the foundations of national unity to become a role model for peace. A cultural heritage and a human history of coexistence and pluralism, in which Bahrain made great efforts to dedicate these principles and build on them as a result of the comprehensive development process whose foundations were laid by His Majesty the King. Bahrain has a unique historical experience that it enjoyed for thousands of years in the field of peaceful coexistence. His Majesty's words at the opening of the General Assembly meeting affirmed Bahrain's firm approach to peaceful coexistence, dialogue and openness to the world with all its religions, sects, cultures and ethnicities without discrimination. The Inter-Parliamentary Union at its 146th session, which Bahrain hosted last March, His Majesty the King made a global call for the adoption of an international agreement to criminalize religious, sectarian and racist hate speech in all its forms in order to prevent intolerance, extremism and terrorism. A forward-looking vision that the Kingdom of Bahrain is working on will advance peace efforts around the world, and Bahrain has always been the nurturing land for everyone, a place for people to enjoy a safe and stable life without discrimination. Bahrain has succeeded in making peace its established approach and its firm strategic choice that upholds the principle of human brotherhood, rejecting differences, adopting the language of dialogue and diplomacy, and spreading the culture of tolerance, coexistence and harmony in a civilized manner that expresses the values, authenticity and awareness of the people of Bahrain.
His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa deputized the Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa to attend the reception organized by the Saudi Embassy on the occasion of the 93rd Saudi National Day. Upon arrival, Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah, accompanied by a number of ministers, was received by the Charge d'Affaires at the Saudi Embassy, Councillor Saleh bin Falah Al-Utaibi, and officials at the embassy. He conveyed the congratulations of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and to the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and to the Saudi people on the occasion. He wished the kingdom continued progress and prosperity under its wise leadership. Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah affirmed the deep-rooted Bahraini-Saudi relations thanks to the keenness of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Saudi monarch, and the shared visions of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister and the Saudi Crown Prince to develop these relations, which made them a distinguished model of close cooperation and strategic partnership. He highlighted the kingdom's keenness to celebrate the Saudi National Day every year, which embodies the depth of the fraternal relations between the two countries and their people. He noted that the achievements of the Saudi Arabia, in light of its Ambition Vision 2030, reflect the skills and wisdom of its leadership. The Deputy Premier also expressed pride in the historical and honorable Saudi fraternal positions towards Bahrain in various situations and circumstances, commending the kingdom's pioneering and pivotal role in maintaining international peace and security. For his part, Councillor Al-Utaibi expressed thanks and gratitude to His Royal Highness for his keenness to advance relations between the two brotherly countries and thanked the Deputy Premier for attending the ceremony. The Minister of Foreign Affairs attended the reception ceremony hosted by the President of the United States, Joe Biden, at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York for leaders and heads of delegations participating in the 78th session of the UNGA. The Minister of Foreign Affairs conveyed to the U.S. President the greetings of His Majesty the King and those of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. The U.S. President entrusted the Minister with conveying his greetings and best wishes to His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, commending the developing strategic friendly relations between the two countries. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdul Latif Al-Zayani, chaired the 18th ministerial meeting of the Asia Cooperation Dialogue, which was held under the slogan Sustainable Post-Pandemic Recovery. The minister affirmed that Bahrain, during its presidency of the Asia Cooperation Dialogue from 2021 to 2023, sought to entrust the provisions of sustainable solutions after the pandemic to achieve the desired recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and to take the necessary measures to ensure the highest levels of safety of all citizens and residents. He said that the kingdom prepares a concept paper on post-pandemic sustainable recovery, which defines the framework for sustainable recovery. He wished the Asian system success in achieving its goals and supporting the efforts of member states to achieve sustainable development. Dr. Zayani expressed thanks to the member states for adopting the final document of the meeting, the Bahrain Declaration. He expressed appreciation to Qatar for hosting the upcoming Asia Cooperation Dialogue next October, wishing the summit success. The meeting stressed the constructive role played by the Asia Cooperation Dialogue in contributing to the continent's growth, development and prosperity, and the need to continue dialogue between member states to exchange experiences and benefit from multiple potentialities. The meeting issued a document, the Bahrain Declaration, which emphasized the importance of promoting the concept of sustainable recovery in healthcare after the coronavirus pandemic, exchanging experiences and best practices on policy support measures in response to the ongoing economic and social impact of the pandemic to facilitate a comprehensive and sustainable recovery. Az-Zayani announced that the presidency of the forum was handed over to Iran, wishing them success. The chairman of the Presidential Leadership Council of Yemen, President Dr. Rashad Mohammed Al-Alaimi, received the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdul Latif Az-Zayani. Al-Alaimi instructed the minister to convey his greetings and appreciation to His Majesty the King and to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister in his wishes of continued progress for Bahrain. He commended Bahrain's position that support the security and stability of Yemen, expressing pride and appreciation for the close fraternal relations between the two countries in various fields. The minister conveyed the greetings and appreciation of His Majesty and His Royal Highness to the chairman and their wishes of peace, security and development to Yemen. Az-Zayani expressed pride in the development of the strong bilateral relations in various fields, stressing Bahrain's keenness to advance them to more comprehensive levels to achieve common goals. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Oil and Environment and Special Envoy for Climate Affairs, Dr. Mohammed bin Daina, as well as the Minister of Sustainable Development, Noor Al-Khleif, attended the reception hosted by the UAE Foreign Affairs Minister, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The Minister of Foreign Affairs commended the solid historic and fraternal relations binding Bahrain and the UAE based on strong bonds of brotherhood and common destiny. He also lauded the continued development of relations in all fields under the directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and the President of the UAE, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Minister of Foreign Affairs met his Hungarian counterpart Peter Szijjártó. The two sides reviewed the distinguished friendship relations between Bahrain and Hungary, highlighting their significant growth. They also discussed opportunities for enhancing cooperation. The meeting also touched upon regional and international issues of common interest. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdul Latif bin Rashid Az-Zayani, met with the United Nations Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen. The meeting came on the sidelines of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The two sides discussed Syria's political and security situation, Arab countries, and UN efforts to address the crisis, and the UN's humanitarian aid to Syrian refugees and internally displaced persons. The Minister of Oil and Environment and Special Envoy for Climate Affairs, Dr. Mohammed bin Daina, attended the Climate Ambition Summit. The minister said Bahrain's participation in this summit came to underline its commitment to achieving set goals to mitigate climate change. He explained that the kingdom aims to reach zero neutrality by 2060, conducting the national plan afforestation forever green to double the number of trees in Bahrain and quadrupling the number of mangrove trees by 2035. He said that the future net zero economy depended on pushing humanity to entirely new frontiers to ensure that everyone can partake as producers and consumers. He noted that Bahrain continued to develop policies and legislation that protect the environment and its resources, help improve the climate and environment situation in the country, and alleviate the impact of rapidly occurring climate changes. The Minister of Social Development Osama Al-Asfour honored pioneers and initiatives in the civil service social work sector in the GCC on the sidelines of the 19th meeting of the GCC ministers and heads of civil services and the 9th meeting of the committee with the under-secretaries of the Ministries of Social Development of the GCC. The minister congratulated Her Highness Injaz Bahrain Board of Directors Chairperson Sheikha Hassa bint Khalifa Al Khalifa on obtaining the Social Work Pioneer Medal by the Ministers of Social Affairs and Social Development of the GCC countries. Al-Asfour also congratulated the National Anti-Drug Committee and ELBA for their recognition and pioneering projects in social work. He said that the honoring is an addition to the series of achievements for Bahrain that contributes to developing the society and serving the people. Minister of Social Development Osama bin Ahmed Al-Khalaf Al-Asfour headed Bahrain's delegation to the 9th meeting of the GCC Social Affairs and Social Development Ministers meeting in Oman. The meeting discussed and approved topics on the agenda, including the discussion of the GCC Summit, its 41st session regarding the Unified Guide for Empowering Persons with Determination and the Unified Guide Law for Volunteer Work, and the resolution regarding the protection of moral, religious and family values in GCC societies. The parties approved the initiatives for the GCC Social Development Strategy, concerned with setting unified policies for the cohesion and stability of GCC societies and enhancing the sense of identity. They also approved the General Secretariat's proposal for on-job training as well as Kuwait's proposal for an award for creative and distinguished people with determination. The Minister of Social Development Osama bin Ahmed Khalaf Al-Asfour met with Kuwaiti Minister of Social Affairs, Family Affairs and Childhood Sheikh Firas Saud Al-Malik Al-Sabah. The meeting came on the sidelines of the 9th meeting of the Committee of Ministers of Social Affairs and Social Development in the GCC countries held in Oman. The two sides exchanged ideas on developing social affairs in the areas of family development and people with determination, in addition to the Bahraini Ministry's projects to empower productive families. Minister Al-Asfour praised the long-standing relations between the two countries. The Minister of Social Development Osama Al-Asfour met with his Omani counterpart Dr. Leila Al-Najjar and discussed issues related to the efforts made by the ministry in the field of supporting and empowering various sectors of development and social work. Al-Asfour stressed the depth of the close bilateral ties and praised the role of the Omani ministry in supporting and enabling developing projects in order to achieve prosperity and development. The meeting also witnessed an exchange of views on the most important common issues related to social development. The radiology department at Salmania Medical Complex achieved a significant increase in the number of examinations due to adopting a special strategy to reducing waiting time, rescheduling appointments and communication with parties, adhering to specified appointments and not affecting treatment plans are among the many procedures that enable the department to provide health care according to the best, most efficient and effective methods. Continuing plans to make qualitative shifts in the health care sector by government hospitals reflect the government's efforts to develop the health services provided to citizens and residents in the kingdom.